middle of the road. It's just a feeling of a distant melody unknown. I was doing fine, I minded my own business till the day you took me home. You came into my life.
So I've been living this country life for a little over a year now, probably almost a year and a half. What I am looking for in a property for me has changed through this whole time that I've been living out here in the country. There's a lot of factors to consider when you're looking at purchasing property or wanting to live a country life. Some of the things that you need to consider is, do you want to live by water? Do you want to have a stream on your property or a river near your property that's part of your property? And some of the factors that you have to consider when you do have a river, it's great because you have access to water, but then you also have a lot more issues with mosquitoes and that type of things. Then there's the beautiful view. Do you want to have a lakefront property, or do you want to be a little more remote, living out in the forest, being further away from other people? Do you want your property to have an easement through it? I didn't even know what an easement was before I moved out here. I had no idea that an easement meant allowing other people to drive through your property to get to theirs. So basically it's where your land is divided. You have your properties on either side of the road. When I first started living this life, I had no idea on what I would want on property. I've been living here about a year and a half now, and I have seen the seasons come and go. I know that one of the toughest things in this particular area, and I think a lot of areas out here in the country, is at the end of winter you get a ton of mud. It is now early spring, and it is definitely mud season. The mud is so thick, it's definitely something that you want to consider when you are moving out to a land and are trying to get things started. You want to make sure that you have something like behind me, gravel down, rather than something like this, which is all mud. The other thing to consider is, what state would you like to live in? You got to consider the weather. So here in North Idaho, you have cold temperatures for 5 to 6 months of the year. We get snow in November, and here it is the end of March, and we still have 2 feet of snow in some sections here on the property. So, it depends on really what you want to do. In this particular area, greenhouse is the key as far as having fruits and veggies longer throughout the year. It extends your growing season, so it's a very important decision to have that on your property if you choose to live in an area that's this cold. The nice thing about living in areas like Texas is you have warmer weather longer throughout the year. You have a longer growing season. You can get more work done outside than you can in an area like here in North Idaho. I think a good thing to consider as well is the storms in the area. I know there are areas in the east that get a lot of wind and a lot of like tornadoes and those types of things. So of course that's another thing to consider. I was born and raised here in Idaho. I did live in the southern part, which is more kind of deserty, than up here in the northern area, which is more just beautiful and foresty. Each of these things are an important thing to consider when you're wanting to buy land. And when I first moved up here, I really didn't have any idea. I know now, for me personally, I want property that is a little more remote. I don't want to be around a whole bunch of people. I personally like to have my privacy. Um, you also have to consider what you plan on doing on the property. Do you want a wooded area where it's, dense and lots of trees? Or do you want an area that has more pasture so you can either plant fields or have livestock? For me, I really like the idea of having a property that I can have more gardens, garden beds, greenhouses, all of these things that I can be self-sustaining, maybe a small flock of animals, something easy to take care of, easy to maintain, but also a lot of garden space so that I can feed myself and can and store food away. Having a friend that is showing me the ropes and has done this thing for a while, living the country life, has been awesome because you learn the things about animals and which animals are good for a garden, for example, like rabbits who have cold fertilizer. You can put it straight on your garden beds. During the winter, when you have animals in a barn, for example, you use that hay and that manure and all of that stuff that you can put on your garden beds as well to help fertilize your gardens. And then rotating like animal tractors or rotating animals around so that you can then down the road plant in those areas the animals already have fertilized. And it's all a very new thing for me to learn, but I now know that, for me, I don't need a lot of land. Just I do want to have enough land that I don't have a neighbor right on top of me. I personally don't need a whole lot of space because I plan on just doing a small garden. I plan on having just a small amount of animals. I am not planning on doing any, hay or anything of that sort, corn, anything like that. But it would be nice to have the privacy away from people just because I like to be able to come out and just enjoy the nature around me and not walk up on a neighbor. So I want to know, what is it that you are looking for? Have you already had property? Do you own property? Do you plan on getting property in the future? And what are the things that you look for? So do you want to live by a river? Do you want to live by a lake? What's a priority to you? Do you want to have a good view? Do you want to have easy water access? Do you want to have an area that gets a lot of sun so that you can have solar? And down the road, I've been considering, what exactly am I looking for property of my own someday. Some days I wish I could go back to when I was in my younger years, in my 20s, and start this process all over again and live out here in the country. I've grown up in city life and it's such a different way of living, but it's all I ever knew. This is, it brings me so much peace. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me and following my journey. As always, you guys have a fabulous week and God bless. Take care.
Wish that I could stay. Wish for this moment to never go away. But it's all in my mind. And though I know that there is nothing to find, you're a beautiful sight in the summer night. And you can't put up a fight in the misty light.